It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Titans transaction from earlier today. The team has signed defensive lineman Deshaun Hand. Hand was acquired from the Titans from the Detroit Lions on the team practice squad late in the season. Made an appearance in the late regular season finale against the Houston Texans, a 2018 fourth-round draft pick out of Alabama. Hand now officially on the Titans roster. Adam Schefter reporting today that the Minnesota Vikings are planning to officially introduce Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell as their next head coach on Thursday, just 2 days after O'Connell helped the Rams to win Super Bowl 56. College hoops tonight, number 16 Tennessee plays host to fourth-ranked Kentucky in Thompson-Boling Arena. The Vols on a 7-game SEC win streak. Their last loss in conference play at the Kentucky Wildcats, 107-79. Kentucky has won 6 games in a row. Tip-off is at 8 p.m. Hear the Vol Network coverage right here on The Zone. The Preds are back in Bridgestone Arena tonight to host the Washington Capitals as Caps head coach and former Preds coach Peter Laviolette makes his return to Nashville. At third place in the Central, Preds have lost back-to-back games since the All-Star break. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday to you. Happy Tuesday. Lucas, happy Tuesday. Happy post-Valentine's Day.
Oh.
Same to you, Blaine.
Oh, no. Well, happy Valentine's to you and your wife, since she brought us some nice little cake that was delicioso.
It's so
What
good.
kind of cake is that?
Strawberry.
It was yummy. I all that sugar. So if I get lit today, you don't understand why that.
That's why I was like, eat some before the show. I wanted you to get on one.
I may turn it. What'd you think about it, Lucas?
It's
pretty
so good.
huh?
I'm going to go step away and take another bite.
Oh man, why don't you take a picture and post that?
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
It looks good. Like the way the icing is
nice
glazed
and
over. It's
moist.
amazing.
Blaine's icing all stuck to the lid.
amazing.
Now.
Oh,
I
I
said you
still
don't have
hate
to
it.
just
I
take
licked
it
it
and
off the
replace
Lick
it.
it right off. Yep.
Yeah.
There's some lid licking going on around here.
Some lid licking.
The guy who wrote the story about
God,
A.J. Brown needing to get 4 for 80 is Brad Spielberger. He is with PFF. He's going to join us, in 20 minutes or so. Going to get into a bunch of Titans offseason topics with him. I want to ask him, for all these people who say it, all the people who say, well, the salary cap's a myth. Because the Titans are negative on the salary cap right now. So let's just ask him, like, hey, man, is it a myth? Should anybody even be worried? Because if he says, oh, yeah, it's just a myth, they'll figure it out. Then, okay, well, John Robinson can just go about spending money, extending contracts and dummy years and, those years they put on the end that you're not going to play anymore, but it's just dead cap money like 6 years from now. Ready to jump into something like that?
Well, I think, a lot of it is because we really don't understand, myself included. The big question I always have about the salary cap is, and you mentioned it yesterday in the numbers is, the Cincinnati Bengals have $51 million in cap space. I thought there was a clause in there that says they have to spend like 85% or 90% of the cap. So where does that play in the part if you have $50 million in salary cap? So maybe I just don't understand what that actually means, but that never adds up to you having that much cap space. I do know that, Mart. I can't add. So, and maybe there's just little intricate parts of the salary cap that I don't understand and don't know about. So those are the reason why people kind of question it. I'm not going to say that it's a myth, but if there's a will, there's a way, and that's what I say about the cap. If you really want a player bad enough, you'll be able to sign them, whether you're negotiating other contracts on the team. But if you really want them, you can get them and find a way to make space, and then it'll be pushed out down the road. Yeah, so that's – I don't want to call it dummy contracts, but I want to call it if there's a will, there's a way. You can make it happen if you really want to make it happen. That's how I feel about it.
We went through this one day.
After you manage the cap, and then now if you now left where, we only have $5 million, you're trying to sign a guy for $10 million. That's where I'm talking about.
Sure.
There's a will of the way.
Well, and that's when you just get creative with how things get spaced out and what's his bonus. And because sometimes it's amazing, a guy gets a huge contract and you look at his cap hit for that first year and it's almost nothing. Yeah. And that's when he got his money.
Right. But the number is actually the salary, the signing bonus is spread out throughout the length of the contract. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I learned all this when I got my contract.
What is that like to be a free agent? Somebody, because
I was never a free agent.
you never got there.
Till I got released by the Titans.
Okay. So then you were free to sign with Phil. Other than that.
Year 9, going on 10.
Okay.
So I never felt that.
You never got the AJ thing where it's like, you about to go into this year and we're going to have to.
Well, since I was such a late round pick, so you got restricted free agent after I was signed for only 2 years. Then they restricted me for another year, and then they franchise tagged me another year, and then I held out.
So the franchise tag year was the first year.
Yes, it was.
That was probably pretty good pop.
Yeah, that was the that was the year we moved here.
Yeah,
in '97. So I held out the whole. When they moved, I hadn't had a house. I hadn't been to Nashville. I was in Indianapolis.
Oh, you went home.
Yeah, I went home.
home.
And just started training. I just started training and held out till I was franchise tagged. I held out till 3 days before the first game. And so I'd never had the TSU experience and all those things because I held out. And then they still got me for cheap in my mind. I felt like I never got to where I should have been.
How many Pro Bowls had you made by that time?
By that time, I think I made 3. Yeah, and I still was making minimum salary. Yeah. So then when they franchised, I signed 6 for 18. Yeah. So that was the only home run hit I got with that one. Considering, my resume.
Right.
That was, you want to try to hit them a couple times for sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Like A.J. Brown, if he gets a new contract, he's going to get that. Then they may try to get him at the end of it. Well, 4 years, he'll probably get all of that unless he has some form of serious injury. At least going to get 2 for sure. And then he's going to hit somebody else over the head again for another big contract, whether with the Titans or somewhere else. Guaranteed. That's just kind of how it's set up. And lucky for him, it kind of worked out that way because he was a second rounder. As much as he hated that he, now he can get up and he has to get a new contract now.
Right.
That he played so well. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people saying he's the best receiver in Titans history. I don't like really doing that until his Titans career is up. I would always say potentially he could be the best Titan. Right now, statistically, for this start, he is definitely one of the hottest, if not the best receiver in Titans history. But, not until it's over do you really know.
Mm-hmm.
Because something could happen, or he could get traded. There's a lot of things could happen. I don't know his personal situation, and hopefully he'll be lucky. He's had some injury history, so we do know that. Nothing major, but enough to keep him out of some games. Usually play wide receiver, you really never miss.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Does that worry you some with him, his history? What, he missed 3 this year? Did he miss 3? Lucas is our crack statistician.
Maybe 3 or 4 games.
Did he miss 3 games this year?
3 games.
Okay.
It felt like longer because the bye week was in there, so he missed a whole month.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Good point. And then you have to say he had both his knees scoped before the season.
I believe that's
they
right.
are just scopes.
I believe he did say that on Instagram.
He said that a little drugged up in a hospital bed that they wanted to shut him down early 2020 season with his knee.
Well, I don't know the extent of his injury, but from a player's point of view and just the league, the mindset, as bad as this sounds, a scope is nothing. In the real world, it's a lot.
Oh, thoughts and prayers in your Sunday school class all brings you dinner for 3 weeks.
But as a player,
NFL
that's
players like, hey man, you get to see you.
I'm gonna tell you this: I got 5 scopes throughout my career. That's why I said it's looked upon on as just like an ankle sprain. If it's something that you're just getting cleaned out, bone spurs, for me, torn lateral meniscus twice, played through it through the season, get it fixed after the season.
That was the thing, you were getting drained on the regular, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet that was fun.
Because I could play through it. I just couldn't practice, though, because it would swell up. So I just would swell up after the game. That's why when people start talking about injuries and everything else and about NFL guys, the mindset of that is a little different than most. It's gradually changing with scopes. Now guys are missing games, 3 weeks. They're still coming back earlier than a normal person.
Right.
I mean, to be highly active in athletics is pretty tough to do. So Some guys can. Sometimes it depends on your position. Like a lot of offensive linemen, D linemen kind of play through those things because they're not really out there sprinting and out in the open field. They're just in short stints of movement, of power, though.
Right.
So it just depends. I don't know the extent of A.J. Brown's injury. I would say they would be minor just in that they were just scopes. But, he had some tough injury. Somebody hit him, former player, actually, the guy they traded for from the Chargers, hit him on the sideline, got his ribs kind of fractured.
Yeah, the other King, right?
Yeah, Desmond King.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think that would be a huge concern. But in negotiations, they're definitely use that. There definitely are. I don't think they would be overly concerned. Then why are we talking?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's if they're overly concerned, there's no conversation, right? That's how you know that there's too much concern. Like, thank you for everything.
Yeah. But if he was like 30, 32,
thank you for everything.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah, then it becomes an issue.
You mentioned this about the like dinging the team twice. I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were talking about players from their school, and there were a couple of us from Arkansas State. Somebody said, well, who's made the most money from Arkansas State? And I said, a guy named Corey Williams. And the guy, this is before DeMario Davis. It has to be him now.
Oh, wow.
But the guy was like, y'all, like Fred Barnett, y'all have had some Carlos Emmons, who I think you played with in Philly.
Yeah, I did. Great guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, none of them. I said, no, it's a guy. They said, how in the world is that? I said, because he got 3 contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Got his rookie deal. He got a second contract, which is what everybody plays for. But then he got the mythical 3rd contract. He got 3 contracts. You got to play a long time in the league to get 3 contracts. You got to stay healthy. He got 3 contracts, and he finished all of them.
That's something there. I wish I could say the same. But, when I signed a 6-year deal, I got 5 of it.
That's still pretty darn good.
Yeah, but it's still I was on really, I would say my first 4 or 5 years, I felt like I was really on 1-year deals. In the scheme of things, you sign 2-year deal out of college, then a 1-year, then a 1-year, and then you get a 6-year deal. See, so that's kind of why I felt that way. That's why.
And guys don't really even get 6-year deals anymore.
No.
I mean, we were surprised Bud Dupree got 5. It's like he got 5 years. Hockey players get that many.
Yeah, it was different atmosphere, too, as far as negotiations, because then they would try to backload it. So I knew I didn't even think I'd get to 5.
Right.
To be honest. But I did.
That had to make you pissed off for greatness. So when you're at the Pro Bowl and some guys just signed some mega deal and you're like, yeah, I'm still making the minimum.
Yeah.
I'm playing the same game as you are. I got stars and stripes on my jersey. Same. I go into a luau tonight with you on the same team.
Oh, man.
I could see you being fired up, and that'd fire me up. I'd be PO'd for greatness.
Oh,
H-Town would have never left a building.
I don't think you even understand the type of fired up I was. Because it was at a whole – I can't even take my mindset or how I was at that point in time. I remember Floyd Reese telling my agent that, I wasn't good at something, and whatever it was. And I said, do what? I said, okay. I was out in that hot heat. I flew to Houston and said I'm going to work out in Houston in this hot heat. I was at Rice working out twice a day. They was like, hey, man, where you been, in Hawaii? No, Houston.
Rice?
Yeah, over at Rice.
The tiniest D1 university.
Yeah, it was right there by my house. I go out there on that track. I had a track coach. I had a DB coach, and we was going at it. And then when I signed, they go, hey, man, what you been doing? You look lean. Oh, I'm ready to go to battle. Man, dude, I was like, man, they got me twisted, man. They don't understand what's inside this engine here. Yeah. So, but I don't think I'm like most though. So I was a little serious.
I believe it. I believe it. I would have been the same way, man. All right. We know what Blaine. We know about his deal. We talked about that. What about some of these Titan free agents and others? Brad Spielberger, he handles all that stuff for PFF. He will join us next. AJ, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into Landry and a whole lot more coming up on Blaine and Mickey.
Hey, Rocket, what's my mortgage rate? Rocket, when am I closing? Is anyone there? Rockets are really cool, but they don't speak mortgage. You need a home loan expert for that. Get pre-approved for your next mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Well, speaking of concerts, man, what do you think about that halftime show at the Super Bowl?
I was a big fan.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
And I know I like the Scorpions, but I like a little bit of everything. Brad Spielberger joins us now. Brad, we'll start with this. You're a younger guy. What'd you think about the halftime show?
I thought it was great. I appreciate being called a younger guy. I saw a tweet where they were saying how, we used to complain that the Super Bowl was for our parents' generation. They said, well, what do you think this one was for? And it kind of made me feel old.
Well, people keep getting reminded that all those people were over 50, essentially, who performed.
Exactly.
And Fitty was two Fitties. He's a full dollar now, as many people are saying, just to stick with that theme. So you went to Vanderbilt. What all kind of history do you have here in Nashville? I noticed that in your Twitter bio.
Yeah. So obviously spent 4 years down in Nashville, lived there for a couple summers as well. A great city. Love to go back whenever I can and come back for homecoming and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, what history? The main history is going to Arnold's Country Kitchen for a meat and three, probably 4 days a week for 4 years.
Mm-hmm. What was your go-to at Arnold's?
So I'm not even a big roast beef guy, but I love their roast beef.
It's so good.
Good. Yeah, it's so good. And then I usually go, mashed potatoes. I love collard greens, so their collard greens are excellent. And their fried green tomatoes, underrated, very underrated.
You ever get the peach pie?
I've gotten the peach pie and the chocolate pepper one. It's all good. It's all good.
Okay, yeah. And now I'm hungry. Brad Spielberger at PFF_Brad with us. So you got a lot of people talking, and then I followed you on Twitter and was checking all this out. Lots of fantastic content, but you got a lot of people talking around here. We all wonder what's going to happen with A.J. Brown, what kind of deal. And you just said, hey, man, 4 for 80 and put that information out. And, boy, you had this town buzzing when you said it.
Yeah, that one blew up. I woke up to it, a tweet saying that. I saw that go crazy. Always good to see, I guess, but also now we'll see what this contract turns out. I mean, I project free agent contracts, but of course these early extensions are huge, and these non-first rounders in the 2019 draft class are going to get deals this offseason. And I think wide receiver in particular is fascinating because of the amount of guys, DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, obviously, Deebo Samuel, the list goes on. And so, 4 years, $80 million, I do get the injury concerns. He's had issues kind of every year he's been there. But when he plays, I mean, he's one of the most efficient receivers in PFF history.
Yeah, I noticed that was part of it. And the crazy thing about him is he may actually be a little bit underutilized, and some would say a lot underutilized. Talking about
right,
AJ.
Exactly. Right, no, 100%. So that's the thing is, for all we know, in a more pass-happy offense, for all we know, he'd be putting up monster numbers. That context also kind of adds into the value of it as well.
Got big Arnold's fan, Brad Spielberger, with us on the line here at PFF_Brad.
Well, Brad, we have you on to make us feel smarter, and that is, how do you come up with the number 4 for 80, and then how, if you were his agent, think about him signing before or after some of the other receivers that are in the kind of the same class as him, as Samuel, Deebo Samuel, and other guys. How do you view that, too, as if you were an agent?
Yeah, so, how I come up with the projections is a bit of a long process. I won't go into everything, but essentially, you look at statistical comparisons to players and then guys that he matched up similar with going into his contract year. So you're looking at second and third season. You compare that then to other guys that signed early extensions in the years past. Then you look at their contracts, and essentially, you use inflation, right? So the salary cap goes up, and so do contracts. So you kind of assess the market, things like that. How has the position market specifically grown or gone down recently? So, for example, at wide receiver, last offseason was very weak for wide receiver. Really the only big deal that went out was Kenny Golladay going to the Giants. He, of course, did nothing in New York, so you think that might even have further negative reflection on the market. So it's a lot of things. Like I said, long answer, but a lot of things that go into it. It is definitely, not just thrown against the wall. There's a lot of research that goes into that. And as for your second question, which is a very key question about timing for agents and players, is, you want to go last. I mean, the way it works generally is if you're in this kind of cluster of players like Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, so on and so forth, Terry McLaurin, et cetera, you want to go last because the later you go, you can then use the prior contract as a benchmark and say, okay, well, we just want to top this deal by a little bit. You know, we saw it last offseason with a couple positions. So they're hoping to wait, and the team probably wants to get it done early to try to get a little bit of a discount.
Well, Brad, we're on with Brad Spielberger of PFF. I guess for me, tell me what Deebo Samuel, I'm going to use him as a comparison. I think their body types are the same. I think Deebo's in a little bit better offense where they utilize all of his skill set to get the most out of him. What kind of contract would he get?
Yeah, so I agree with you how they're both big guys that honestly, once they get the ball in their hands, they kind of run after the catch like a running back. But you know, I think Deebo, it's interesting. I have him just below A.J. Brown in the article. I have him getting about $19.25 or $19.5 million per year, so pretty much the same deal. But the difference there is I think, you know, A.J. Brown is a true X outside wide receiver that can go up and win you jump balls, that can battle with number one opposing cornerbacks and can just do some things down in the red zone and stuff like that maybe Deebo Samuel can't. Now, of course, you know, I don't know many wide receivers that could average like 8 yards per carry like Deebo Samuel can. But yeah, another answer to your prior question is you also have to look at measurables and traits and stuff like that. I mean, how a guy plays the position does also impact value, and A.J. Brown plays like a true number one outside wide receiver.
Well, with Brad Spielberger, one more question about receivers, and because the Titans, I don't know what they're going to do with Julio if he's here or not, but I'm assuming on June 1st, maybe they go in a different direction. I don't know. But if you're looking for a number 2 receiver, this name keeps coming up, and I'm just wondering what his value is on the open market, and that's Juju Smith-Schuster from the Steelers. What is he worth?
You know, I think he'd be a great option because he's a great run blocker, so I think he would fit in what the Titans like to do. Also, you know, a sure-handed slot receiver, so different than an A.J. Brown or, you know, a Julio Jones. I think he might, again, have to go this one-year flyer route. So he had a pretty nasty shoulder injury. He was able to make it back for their playoff game, but I know they almost didn't want to clear him for the game. They were concerned he may re-injure it. So not 100% healthy. And I do it. So he signed a 1-year, $8 million deal this past offseason to return to Pittsburgh, and that was with other teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and Baltimore Ravens making offers. I think it's going to be similar. You know, a 1-year, $10 million flyer, and then if you do go multiple year route, maybe something like Corey Davis got from the Jets, you know, 3 years, $12.5 million per year, something in that range. Nothing crazy for Juju.
Well, Brad Spielberger of PFF.
What do you think about Harold Landry? That's a decision that's got to get made, and Blaine and I have discussed this quite a bit. You already got 5 for, 82.5 committed to Bud Dupree. What do you do with Harold Landry?
Yeah, and, you know, we didn't love that deal, and yes, he was battling with some injuries, but, you know, it kind of looked how we kind of expected it to. We thought he was a big benefactor of playing opposite T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and all those guys in Pittsburgh, and Landry's interesting. I mean, the guy has the most snaps played at edge rusher over the last 3 seasons. He's a true Iron Man. He just does not come off the field, and he's kind of good at everything, but he's not great at anything really. But I think kind of, you know, a little bit below Bud Dupree. We have him at 4 years, $60 million, so $15 million per year. I think it's going to land around there, which I think is a fine deal. I mean, this defense needs a lot of talent up front. You need a lot of guys that can play a lot of downs, run a lot of stunts, do a lot of different things to manufacture pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and he definitely fits that. But it's just tough because I don't think he's a dynamic kind of game-changing player really at edge rusher.
You think the Titans can get him for that, or do you think if that's the offer, he says, "Nah, I'm going to try to get a little more somewhere else, or a lot more"?
No, I think it'll be around there. You know, you always do see teams overpay in free agency, so maybe some team does swoop in and offer, you know, 16, 17 million per year, something like that. But I'd be surprised if a team went that big. I think the Titans do find a way to get it done. I think, I mean, they could, if they feel it necessary, maybe throw a franchise tag down to get that deal across the finish line. But I do think he'll remain a Titan.
How, and I wrote this word because they're below the cap ceiling right now for next year. How dire is this Titans cap situation?
It's not too bad. So the thing about the Titans and a couple other clubs is that it depends how you generally pay out your contracts. And the Titans prefer to have a pay-as-you-go structure in that they don't like to push a ton of money down the line. They rather, you know, keep bigger salary cap hits in early years, but then it's kind of even across the board. Other teams will see where, you know, they may have a minimum contract guy in the first year, but then that contract balloons up to some massive number on the back end. So what the Titans can do is, just like they did with Ryan Tannehill before this season, they can go in, they can restructure some contracts, which essentially just pushes money down the line, creates upfront cap space. It's not great, but it's not too dire.
What do you say to the people who are the salary cap is a myth people?
Yeah, I see this one all the time. So I think the funny thing is that the NFL player contracts can be a myth. So the overarching salary cap can cause problems. And look, if teams want to manipulate it to an extreme degree, like the Saints and the Eagles and the Rams obviously have done a lot of this, they can. But eventually the bill is going to come due. And eventually you're going to have a situation where you're struggling to spend in free agency, struggling to add to your roster because you just don't have a means to do so. So, I push back on it a ton. It's not fake, but I understand why people say that because you really can manipulate things so extremely and kind of change the whole financial outlook if you'd like to.
Brad Spielberger, our guest at PFF_Brad.
Well, Brad, I want to talk to you about tight ends. It's been a huge issue. I don't know if Titans will be able to get one worthy in the draft high that is kind of a game changer. But who do you see on the open market? I know the Dolphins have a guy, I think with the Browns maybe. But who do you think on the open market is going to be the biggest get? Maybe give me a couple of them at tight end.
Yeah, so you mentioned Miami Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki. His issue probably in Tennessee is that he even calls himself a big slot receiver. He really doesn't block at all. So, as you guys know, that's probably a non-starter down in Tennessee. I think David Njoku, who you mentioned from Cleveland, is actually a very interesting name. Yeah. He can block. He obviously the Cleveland Browns run a lot of 2 tight end and 3 tight end sets. They run a very similar offense to the Tennessee Titans. He actually has gotten better every year as a blocker and still is a capable pass catcher. I think that actually would be a phenomenal, pairing of those two. But he might get a decent deal because we're seeing in the NFL, if you're look at Jonnu Smith. Nothing against Jonnu Smith, but the guy has signed a top-of-market contract coming off a season when he had, 400 receiving yards. So it's kind of hard to find a good value, cheap tight end. Maybe if you wanted one more name for you is a guy from the Arizona Cardinals named Max Williams. He got hurt very early in the season, but former Ravens player, really good blocker, but has some upside as a pass catcher. That's probably a good value signing that I think would fit really well in Tennessee.
Well, I'm gonna give you one because they were injured, and John Robinson seems to like injured guys usually in the draft, and he's getting high value. He's not an elite player by any means, but he has some value. He tore his ACL, and that's the Tunyon kid there with Green Bay.
Yeah, Rob Tunyon. Yeah, so I think a solid option. Again, that wide zone offense. Obviously, head coach Matt LaFleur was with the Titans before he went to that job, so. Similar offense, a lot of familiarity, and yeah, I think it's a perfect example where he will be cheaper. I have him taking a 1-year deal for about $5.5 million, nothing crazy at all. I think it's a great call, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And what about Zay Jones? He's not a tight end, naturally. He was a receiver, but as a number 2 guy, how do you see him fitting, or is he more of a 3?
I would call him a 3, but I do think he's a good fit. Again, a guy that is a willing blocker. That Raiders offense, again, a lot of 2 tight end sets, a lot of heavy personnel, duo running behind tight ends, just kind of another offense that I think would make sense with Tennessee. But he's definitely, in my opinion, a number 3 option. If he's your number 2, you probably don't have a good top 2.
Well, keep this in mind when I'm asking this question. That is about Aaron Donald. If he gets a new contract, because I think this is what this is all about, with him maybe potentially retiring, and he feels like he's the best player in the NFL, if not, should be paid up there with the quarterbacks. What would he get if he got a new deal? And then on top of that, if you're the Titans, if you wait right before the season and give Jeffrey Simmons a new deal, what would that consist of?
Yeah, so I was hoping you were going to connect those two things. So, yeah, I agree with you that I do think that's at least part of what Aaron Donald is going for here. When he signed his deal for $22.5 million, he was the highest paid non-quarterback. He's now 8th, and there are a bunch of defensive linemen that have surpassed him. So, he is 30 or 31 now. I mean, look, he's still the best defensive player in the NFL. So I do think he would look to at least get into that conversation of the $27, $28 million per year. But generally those are so high because those are 5 and 6, year deals. So I could see them maybe just a 2-year extension, but a 2-year, $50 million deal, 25 per year and almost entirely guaranteed might be a good middle ground for those two clubs. And the second point is key is that, yes, Jeffrey Simmons is an ascending stud in this league, is one of the better interior defensive linemen in the NFL already. And I think you want to get that deal done as soon as possible. I would argue even faster than A.J. Brown. You want to get him extended as soon as possible before some of these other, interior defensive linemen come up for extensions. And look, I think he has a legitimate case to be in the $20 million per year conversation.
Ooh, $20 million for Big Jeff. Big Jeff wants big pockets now. He deserves it. I guess one more for me in the open market and free agency. What's a mid-level corner price tag? And give me a couple guys you think fit into this mode. I was looking at the Rams. I know he's a smaller guy, but I think it's Darius Williams there, number 11 for the Rams. He's kind of a 1 year. I'm trying to figure out if the Titans go in a different direction with Jack Rabbit, who else can they get to kind of replace him that's just a solid starter, maybe backup guy that plays a lot?
Yeah, so, Darius Williams is a good player, but a pretty heavy zone guy, so not really what, the Titans are looking to do.
Mm-hmm.
If they do move on from Jack Rabbit, I think an interesting guy, kind of the higher end of your question would be a Charvarius Ward with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
A big guy,
I like him.
Can play man coverage. But probably, a number 2, and they would hope he would start. But I think the deal we have there for him is 3 years, about $34.5 million. So not breaking the bank.
Right.
$11.5 million per year is kind of middle market now for cornerbacks. If you wanted to go kind of real cheap, you could look into some of these guys that have just kind of had breakout years, like a Robert Alford in Arizona, like a Rasul Douglas with the Green Bay Packers. He did thrive in his zone system this year after struggling as a man corner, but was drafted to be a man corner with the Philadelphia Eagles. So there's a lot of good thing for Tennessee is there are a lot of depth options at cornerback.
Well, I guess one more for me. Give me, I don't pay attention to a lot of the centers that are available on free agency. If Ben Jones is no longer with the Titans, who would be a guy, maybe even if it's a backup guy, swing guy, I don't know what's out there at the center guard position? They could start.
So I think Ben Jones could be a priority for them, but like you said, it's very possible he moves on. I think one name that'd be interesting as a swing guy is Ted Karras. He was with the New England Patriots this past year, signed a 1-year deal. He can play both center and guard. Has the flexibility. Generally been a center, but if you want him to be your backup at all 3 interior spots, he can do that. And we have him getting a 3-year, I want to say $12 million deal. So just $4 million a year gives you a lot of comfort. At the offensive line, I think that'd be a great addition for Tennessee.
What is your value on? I call him Undertaker. And that's Kelly there. That was
Kelly.
with Green Bay. Yeah, Dennis Kelly. He was with the Titans now. He was Green Bay last year. Is he going to be a starter or more backup in this league moving forward?
It's interesting because we had him and then Questenberry graded really well for us as well. And I think we're starting to realize that, this outside zone rushing scheme can help a lot of these tackles that are athletic, that can move, that can block in space. But then the NFL kind of told us, with Dennis Kelly's deal in Green Bay that they didn't kind of value him as much as we graded him out from that year in Tennessee. So we have him getting, another 1 year, $1.5 million deal, nothing crazy at all. He's a swing tackle. He's probably not a guy you want to start. I think you could maybe say the same thing about Questenberry as well. So, but I think it's a good thing. I think Tennessee can then save money in that way, can add a very reliable and solid run-blocking right tackle without breaking the bank.
We're on with Brad Spielberger of PFF.
All right. Before we let you go, on fantastic stuff, too, by the way, from Brad Spielberger. Just when you look at this Titans list of potential cut candidates as they try to trim some fat from the salary cap, who are some names that stand out to you that you think, it might be tough for that guy to survive?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I was just working on that today. So I think the one that's going to be very interesting is Zach Cunningham. I know he was a big addition, and Tennessee fans that I saw were kind of excited and happy with his production and his play down the stretch. But when you make that move where you're bringing him in for a minimum salary, I want to say they paid him about $400,000 for the rest of the year. That's great. When his salary jumps to $10 million for next year, I'm not sure Tennessee can be paying an off-ball linebacker that much money. So he's and look, I'm a Vandy guy. He's a Vandy guy. So it's tough for me to say, but I think he probably has a tough path to remaining a Tennessee Titan, at least on the contract he's currently playing on.
All right, Brad, great stuff. People, like I said, I jumped on the follow train. People need to. Tons of good content, always with PFF and on your account at PFF_Brad, all kinds of cap and contract information and more. Thank you, and holler at us when you're over here, and we'll hit up Arnold's together.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It sounds like a plan.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Brad
it, Brad.
Spielberger. Definitely, if you're nerding out on all these numbers like I am, fantastic follow. You need to follow him. So the numbers are out there for AJ. What would you do? Brad says 4 for 80. Where do you fall on this stuff? Would love to get your thoughts. We'll put out a poll question, too, on Blaine and Mickey Twitter about this. How much are you going to pay A.J. Brown and Harold Landry, Big Jeff? But let's start with A.J. It's next on Blaine and Mickey. 5 is known. Go and tweet this out. PFF_Brad, who was just on with us, Brad Spielberger, has A.J. Brown's next estimated contract at 4 years for $80 million. What's your number? Is it 16+ million per year? Is it 18+ million per year? Is it 20 per year? Or is it all too rich for me? I'm out. With the Shark Tank reference there. Michael has already weighed in on this. He said, I wouldn't sign A.J. I would lock up Simmons. I would lock up Cunningham. I would sign, he said, Landry, but I think he means Landry. Every year it seems like there are 3 or 4 dynamic receivers drafted. The way colleges have opened up, it's easier to find a guy to come in and be a difference maker. If you don't have A.J., though, and if you let Julio walk, then you don't have a 1 or a 2, and you maybe don't have a 3.
I like his thought process, just not with the number 1 receiver. I could walk from my 2, but not the 1. Everything revolves around elite players. You got to have the 1. The supporting cast can change, but A.J. Brown, it showed we had Julio Jones, and it's a gap between those 2 guys. So I do like keeping Simmons as well. I think Landry is going to probably be the guy in my mind that, based off what Brad just said and kind of my thought process, I've been saying this from the beginning, because if you tag him now, that's a big, heavy hit. If you don't get him for modest range, maybe under what you gave Dupree, maybe with less years, and I don't know if he'll go for that, then you can always draft a guy at his level to produce probably 8 sacks, not into the career, year that Landry had, which he's not that every year. He had a fantastic year, played hard, everything came together, better supporting cast around him, better secondary, so it all just came together for him. He's a multi-level player, too. He dropped a lot, too, in coverage. So I kind of want that swing guy. So I think he's going to be the guy left out. Maybe even Cunningham, because he said, $10 million. I'm wondering, where do you go then? You signing some modest guy for $5 million to play middle linebacker who's really the quarterback of your defense?
At that point, you got David Long, and you've got the kid from Georgia that you drafted, Monty Rice, who ended the year on injured reserve.
Right.
That's and do you try to bring back Jayon for another 1-year deal? I mean, because Rashaan Evans, he's gone. So what?
Yeah. That's I don't know. I mean,
draft a guy. You got Long in the 6th round. Now, he didn't have to do much until literally the playoffs, and it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to need you to play a lot of minutes. And he did. He played nicely when asked to play. So do you feel like you could find a guy in the draft or a mid-level free agent, plug in beside David Long and tell Monty Rice, hey, man, you're the number 3 guy. Get ready to go. You're going to play a lot.
Well, it just depends on how they want to allocate their money. You never know. I guess Cunningham is he a free agent? Or they have to cut him? He has 2 more years on his deal, right?
There's no dead money left because it stayed with the Texans. So you can just get out of his contract. You can just walk away.
So you can get out of his contract and then redo his deal for maybe a little less modest. Maybe it's $8 million a year deal where you gave him 4 up front, 4 first year. Kind of really more a 2-year, 3-year deal. That way it doesn't hit heavy like you're spending too much at that position as far as money allocated to position groups. And then maybe you draft a pass rusher with the 26th pick. People forget Landry was a 2nd-round pick.
Sure was.
Really came into his own this last season because I would want to have that money given to Simmons, Big Jeff, and A.J. Brown. With the caller saying, I think you can draft a receiver that can come in and be a 2-3-ish. I think they like NWI a lot, and then maybe you sign one in free agency, like Juju or someone to that ilk that's opposite of number 1.
And Brad Spielberger, who was just on with us, if you're just getting in the car, you missed that, you will need to listen to it. He talked about, he said Juju probably get a deal similar to Corey Davis. So we get the commercial break, and you're like, why did they not just keep Corey Davis for that much money?
Yeah, that's what it made me think about. And you also gave up a 2nd-round pick
to get Julio.
Right. So you lost in all fronts there. He didn't stay healthy. He didn't perform at the level you thought, and you paid more.
Paid him more.
So you lost on all fronts there, and Corey Davis got a 3-year, $12 million per year deal. I think that's right?
I believe that's right. I think that's what the number was, is like 3 at 12 per.
It was 12 per, but he struggled to stay healthy down the stretch,
He
too.
did.
He did, but he still overall is a better player at this point in time than Julio. Yeah, and he always got injured and missed some games, but it was about 2 or 3 games per year throughout his career. He came into the league injured with his ankle. He had ankle surgery out of the draft. I don't think he did a lot of working out as far as that's concerned. But as his career went on, he became a little more consistent. He got better incrementally each and every year. But the receivers, you can get them all over the place. So,
how much is 7-on-7 and that whole culture changed the ability to find receivers?
I think
pass happy offenses.
I think it's helped out a lot, and I think it's helping the development of quarterbacks.
Yeah,
that's why we're seeing them coming into the league, and they just throw them right out there. Before it used to be, the McNair time, he said 2 or 3 years. I was like, dude, can we put the dude out? They had some third stringer guy out there, Billy Joe Tolliver. It was started in front of McNair.
I remember him.
You talking about people hot as fish grease on the sideline? Like, what are we doing?
Was Mac hot as fish grease?
Huh?
Was he mad, or was he just like, okay?
Oh, more Mac mad?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you could never tell if Mac was mad.
That's what I was asking you.
It was,
you couldn't tell what was going on with him.
No, here's what I would do. I'd go up to him. Hey, man, what's going on? I don't know what the heck is going on. I was like, man, I don't care if the other dude is ahead of him mentally or not. We got to throw this guy out here, man. So they eventually did.
They did, and they got some magic out of it. You mentioned Zach Cunningham. He has 3 years. There's 0 dead cap. The Titans can cut him at any time.
Oh.
So
he may be the first guy to go and renegotiate and see so they can see if they're going to be with him or not. That way they know what other direction this is.
Like right now, right? When you I think he has a little bit of like roster bonus.
But they always want to wait to the end to see. And then he's stuck there because other teams have signed their middle linebackers.
That's it. He's a $500,000 roster bonus each year. So they would have to get rid of him before the whatever the day is that he would get his roster
in March
bonus
sometime.
Yeah, so in March the clock's ticking for his $500,000. So now he's on the roster. When that thing happens, it's like, okay, he's not going anywhere. They just paid him $500,000. So that's the clock that's run. That's the train that's going to be at the station.
I won't say it's 100%, but you want to think that that's really close. I've seen some guys get new contracts and then get cut, redo their contracts, Randall Godfrey, and then still get cut. I mean, so I want to say for sure that is true, but it's never 100%.
He's 10, 11, and 12 and a half. Those are his next $3 million for an off-the-ball linebacker. 10, 11, 12 and a half.
If you pick up the 500?
And then 500 each year roster bonus.
Oh, so I got to give him a new contract. I just got to give him a new contract. I got to cut him and give him a new contract.
But like, hey, man, we want you here, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
We got to let you go for that. But now something else, let's do it. Dude led him in tackles all but one game, I think, since he got here.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I was thinking, 10, 8 to 10.
12. Yeah.
8 to 10, but sometimes you say, nope, we're not playing for that amount at middle linebacker that only play. I mean, does he play on passing situations?
I need to go back and look at his snap counts and see how much he was off the field versus David Long in those situations.
Well, Long was injured, so some of it may be skewed because he might have been out there.
It would have been him and Jayon or him and somebody else. I'll do some snap count investigation in this break, but we will take this break.
I just
Coach
like
Mack,
his skill set.
It's coming up in hour number 2. We got a lot to get to with Coach Mack. He knows a bunch of those Rams who won the Super Bowl, and he used to coach the Cardinals. Maybe he's got Kyler Murray's phone number. I don't know. We got questions. He's got answers in a little over 20 minutes.
It is 2:03. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Big game tonight in Knoxville. Number 16, Tennessee, playing host to 4th-ranked Kentucky in Thompson Bowling Arena. The Vols riding a 7-game SEC win streak. Their last loss in conference play at the Kentucky Wildcats, 107-79 on a day where the Cats shot 68% from the floor in Rupp Arena. Kentucky has won 6 games in a row. Tip-off is at 8 p.m. Here, the Vol Network coverage right here on 104.5 The Zone. The Predators are in Bridgestone Arena tonight to host the Washington Capitals, welcoming back former coach Peter Laviolette at 3rd place in the Central. Preds have lost back-to-back games since the All-Star break. Puck drop tonight is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. How many NBA active players can you name right now besides like LeBron and Steph Curry?
Well, I mean, mid-level guys.
Yeah.
Like I just saw a name Bempery up there, and I'm like, who is that?
If a Celtics game came on right now, how many guys could you name on the Celtics roster?
I can name Jason Tatum.
Okay.
I can name Grant Williams. Is Al Horford
now you're already asking questions, and we're 3 deep on here.
Okay.
He's still there?
Because he was there,
Jaylen
and then
Brown.
he left, and then he came
Jaylen
back.
Brown.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown.
I should have picked a different team. Y'all are actually doing. You almost got starting 5 for this.
Smart.
Yeah, Marcus Smart. That's another good one. Yeah, I think. Is Taco Fall still on the Celtics?
Yes, he is. He is. I don't know if he's on the active roster. They also have that kid, the Williams kid from Mississippi State, the long, tall guy.
Venus.
No, not that. Yeah, I said guy.
Sorry, it's the first Williams
Yeah,
I thought
forgot
of.
his name. He went to Miss. Yeah, he's done a really good job. That's it. You're right, though, man. These guys. Ed Air showing Ben Simmons and transitioning over to the Brooklyn Nets. I saw, a quote from Durant saying that
Nick says in the chat, Taco Fall is now on the Cavs.
he's on the Cavs.
And Taco got
Dang,
He didn't do much
Taco.
in Boston.
he shipped out the Taco.
Yeah, he has a great run there.
Yes,
Taco.
That
is
immortal
there.
run by Taco Fall.
Never works out for those super tall guys that have trouble getting up and down the court and getting off the ground. Yeah, it's always tough. But that Durant and Harden didn't agree on offensive philosophy, and I'm like, what? Well, what would that be? Both of y'all like the ball hog, so
I think that's it. Like, I don't agree that you want to shoot at 30 because I'm going to shoot at 30 times.
Well, basically, that's saying that I'm better than you.
Sure.
Yeah,
the philosophy is I shoot at 30 and you shoot at like 24.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy.
Man.
So they're 0 for 2 on being on the same team together,
Oh, that's right. OKC.
winning a championship.
Think about this.
Harden was a backup there.
Yeah, Harden wasn't close.
You
to
some
what he is
young
now.
person in OKC. How many years ago was that now that they were all together? 10?
I don't know.
8?
A minute.
It was right before Durant went to Golden State.
It was a different Durant. It was the guy. It's the Durant. I'm sorry, different Harden. He was the Harden that had no beard.
Yeah.
And that was when, like, Durant tried to be like a nice guy before he got hard and mean. He's hard and mean now. He wasn't like that.
Well, he was a nice guy until everybody started ripping him in the media.
Oh, he had enough real quick. Like, oh, wait a second. Y'all going to say ugly things about me? Okay, well, I'm about to be hard and mean. But I have some friends who lived in OKC, and they were like, our team's going to be great for years. We got all these superstars. The whole city's just on fire. And then they were all gone. Just in a blink of an eye.
I don't think I can name
Like
a
they got
single
raptured
Thunder
out of
player.
there. Okay, maybe that was the question.
Yeah.
Name somebody on the Thunder.
Unless Steven Adams still plays for the Thunder, I have no
No,
idea.
he does not.
he-
Okay, then nope, I'm all out.
One of the guys, he has 3 names, 2 last names with his first name. I saw him play at BA. He is their point guard.
Oh, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He's
Well, there
there.
you go.
I had to Google that.
Yep. That's
did
him.
not know that.
Yep. He's on their team. They drafted him first round. He played in a school I'd never heard of in Chattanooga, so I was really intrigued about this private school that I've never heard of. It was basically a basketball school. Yeah.
Well, it worked for him.
Yeah, it did.
Could you imagine, the NBA is such a, and we didn't have this set aside plan. The NBA is such a coastal, big city league. And then you have a team in Memphis with one of the brightest young stars that couldn't be any further from either coast. It's on the Mississippi River. And you got a guy there who could be the talk of the league for years playing in that market, tiny market. Not that Memphis is a tiny city, but it's not coastal. And then literally you have a team in Oklahoma City with no stars on it. Sorry, Kentucky fans. I know Gilgeous-Alexander's a good player, but that whole orbit of the NBA is like Los Angeles and New York and Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, Oklahoma City has the team.
Well,
and Memphis.
Oklahoma and New Orleans, where's Zion go? He been chilling. He had too many crawfish. Is he still injured? I mean, what is this deal?
I think he was injured on and off for. I'd be lying if I said I really knew.
He hadn't played at all this year.
Yeah. He's been disappointing. I think
they got to get him out. He don't want to be there. That has to.
I think he'd be a lot more well if he was in some place he wanted to be.
I think he was in the same draft class as Ja.
He was.
Ja has been the star of that draft class.
Yeah, but they played travel ball together and they didn't even notice him. That's the big story on the Ja.
Didn't notice Ja.
Yeah, they said, okay, well, all the guys that are elite guys stay in this gym, and all the other guys go in the other gym, and Ja had to go to the other gym, and only one guy over there noticed him, and that was the Murray State, I guess, scout.
We are getting tons of NBA talk in the chat now.
And he's helping us out.
Nick says, yes, Taco doesn't play with the Cavs either, is what Nick says. Brandon says Adams is a Grizz. Nick says,
That's right. How could I not know that?
And Nick is about to flash me back here. Now, I don't know if you would remember this, Blaine, because I'm so much older than you. Lucas, Nick says, I wish Kansas City would have gotten a team instead of OKC. Oh. Do you know where the Kings used to be, Lucas?
Were they in Kansas City?
They were the Kansas City Kings.
It's got a nice ring to it.
Do you know who played for them? You watch him on TV on Thursday nights on TNT. Kenny the Jet Smith was a Kansas City King. So when Kansas City, the Kings are purple now, like the Monarchy purple, they used to be
baby blue.
Oiler blue and red. They were the same uniform.
Kenny Smith got drafted by them?
I don't know if he got drafted by them, but Kenny Smith played for the Kings.
Oh.
The Kings, they played in like Kemper Arena. Kansas City.
I forgot all about that. I don't remember
NBA basketball. Hey, man, you're on the border of Missouri and Kansas. Think about how basketball bananas people are there.
Yeah, and I like that. The Kansas City Kings. I like the alliteration.
It rolled off the tongue.
Yeah. I love that about NBA teams when they move, how some team names make so much sense in that location, and then they move, like the Utah Jazz, right? Like, I don't know if one note of jazz has ever played in Utah on a yearly basis, but it used to be in New Orleans. And then the Lakers, that obviously did not originate in L.A. There's no lakes in L.A.
Well, they were the Minneapolis Lakers, and they had they had like the first true big man, George Mikan, who was like the premier big man for his day, and for a long time after that, people were trying to find the next George Mikan. But yeah, that perplexes people who don't know the history of the league. It's like, why is there a team called the Jazz in Utah? There are no lakes in L.A. Well, you got to dig a little bit.
Well, they could have changed the name.
They could have. Kenny Smith did get drafted 87-90, 6th overall pick out of North Carolina by your Kansas City Kings. They even list like his Wikipedia as Sacramento Kings.
You know who I was going to say as soon as you said that? Kansas City Kings. You said guard, but until you said he was on TV, then I didn't know. I was going to go, this is going to go way back.
Oh, Lord.
Reggie Theus.
He played for the Kings.
I know. That's all. I didn't know Kenny Smith went back that far, because all I remember is Kenny in the Houston Rockets and them winning the championship, because I lived there and watched him, and knowing I watched him in North Carolina. But I remember him. I think he won the dunk contest one year. Or he at least made it to the maybe final two. I think he won it, yeah.
Reggie Theus was like the smoothest guy in the league for a minute there. Mm-hmm. He had like the long like mullet fro thing. Oh, man.
He was cool. He was a broadcaster.
Reggie Theus. Lucas, you need to look him up. Here's another one for you. Just kids out there looking for history. Do you know where the Clippers started?
No.
No, don't tell us. We got to make a guess. I have no idea.
Where did the Clippers start?
The
Clippers, before they moved. The Clippers.
What city? Was it an alliteration? Like the Kansas City Kings?
It was an alliteration, but they had a different name.
Oh, then I.
And they also wore, their blue was Columbia blue, same as the Tennessee Titans. Used to be big in the 70s. Baby blue was the thing. Y'all got anything?
I could just start naming cities, but I don't know if anybody wants to do that.
I'm perplexed. I do. Wait.
You know this. You're old enough to know them.
You were little. I'm not.
You were little
at the radio right now.
Oh, man. I want to say I remember, too.
I'll tell you who else played in that city at the same time.
Who?
One Orenthal James Simpson.
Oh, is it Buffalo?
Buffalo.
Oh, I wouldn't have guessed.
The
What were they?
Buffalo Braves.
Buffalo.
Oh, I thought you said it was the
team?
Clippers.
Buffalo had an NBA team from 1970 to 1978, and then they became the Clippers and moved to San Diego.
How you gonna try to say almost 2?
And they were in San Diego for a handful of years, and they've been the Clippers in LA since '84. Prometheus says Buffalo. There you go.
Man. There.
Brett Kerr just tweeted. He's from Buffalo. He just sent me a message and said, Buffalo Braves. That's Kerr's childhood basketball. He's not old enough. He would just know that they were there
Well,
because
if you live somewhere,
he
of
would have
course.
sent like pennants and posters around and said, why do we have this stuff? Do we used to have an NBA team?
Yeah, we gotta get Kern on, man. You gotta be a regular. Give us his knowledge.
Well, he could break down any Buffalo sports. I know that.
One time, there's a bar in Birmingham.
tables.
There's a bar in Birmingham that is like the Buffalo Backers Bar of Birmingham. And a few years ago, I went to watch a Titans game. They were playing the Bills. It was the game where Nick Williams had the drop.
Oh,
and
that
I was
poor
there
guy.
watching the game, and a ton of Bills fans there. And I was there with my dad. You know, he's wearing a Titans shirt, and somebody came up to us, starts talking to us, and told us he was a childhood best friend of Brett Kern's.
Oh my, he's
So
the
we were
legend
talking to
there.
him I wish I remember his name that I could tell Brett.
Brett probably knows him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a major metropolitan area, Lucas. I don't know if everybody knows everybody.
They may, unless they go to Canada all the time, which is what they do. An hour drive, man.
All right, we're not going to Canada. Coach Mack is not there. He's in the United States of America, and we will talk to him next. Coach Dave McGinnis joins us next.
You don't know that.
Hey, Rocket, what's my mortgage rate? Rocket, when am I closing? Is anyone there? Rockets are really cool, but they don't speak mortgage. You need a home loan expert for that. Get pre-approved for your next mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Oh, I got you.
You hear that music? Somebody asked me, what is this song one day? I'm like, Return of the Mac? This is one of the great songs of all time to introduce one of the great guests of all time, Coach Mack, who joins us now. Coach, how in the world are you doing? I always love hearing this song because I know that means about to hear you join us on the program here.
Mickey, I'm doing great. Blaine, hope you're doing good too. I'm just sitting here right now looking at some players for this draft because that's the next thing that's coming up that I'm concentrated on. And plus, I'm looking at the league calendar here because this time of year, once the Super Bowl is over with, which it is, the league calendar is something that becomes pretty important. So I'm checking out the league calendar to see some of these important dates that our listeners might be interested in here. I think people kind of wonder what goes on with clubs during the off season, and the off season really starts, for everybody once you're through playing, but it officially gets going, once the Super Bowl is over with. And so, there are certain dates, target dates that you hit during the off season. And that's what I'm checking on. That's what I'm checking out right now.
What's the next big one ahead that league executives or observers like us need to have circled, Coach, on our calendar?
Okay, well, here it is. Starting on February 22nd to March the 8th, that's when all of your teams can designate players for the franchise or the transition tag. So if you got players that you're thinking about doing this with, it starts in February the 22nd, and you've got up until March 8th to make that decision. And then, March 1st through the 7th is the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. This may be the last year that it's in Indy. I've been to every combine that's been in Indy since 1987. Of course, during the COVID year, they did not have it. It's going to be up for bid after this year, but, I'm going for the whole time from March 1st through 7th and to get to look at some of these players. I think there's a little over 300 that they've invited into that combine in Indy. And then March 14th to the 16th, guys, is and this is a really a kind of a quasi-fake name here, but I don't know how else to say it. Legal tampering period starts in free agency. There's so much tampering going on, right, that finally they said, look, okay. And a lot of this had started during the combine week because all the agents are there and every team official is there. Your money guys are there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on there when you start talking about, free agency and you start talking about trades. Anyway, the legal time to start doing that is March 14th to the 16th. And then March 16th, guys, at 4 p.m. Eastern, which is 3 p.m. here in Nash Vegas on March the 16th. That's when the official league year starts. And that's when free agency officially begins, is on March 16th. And then that's when all your trades can become official. You got your annual league meeting, March 27th to the 30th, which will be a pretty important meeting, I would imagine, this year. And then, clearly sometimes between April and July, then what you're going to get is, all the things that you start to get as far as schedule being released, that kind of stuff. And then April 18th is the first time that teams with returning head coaches can start their off-season workouts. And, April 23rd is the last day for restricted free agents to sign. I mean, I can go on and on. And so, anyway, that's where we are now, guys.
If somebody had told you, that first combine in 1987, like, hey, man, everybody's going to watch this on TV and we're going to stretch it out for days, and free agency is going to have TV specials for days. And would you have even believed what this league has become, Coach? Not just on the field, but off the field, the business of it.
No, I could not, because at the time, when the first combine I went to was out in Phoenix. They had it in Phoenix, and one year they had it in New Orleans, and then they had it in Indy in 1987. And that place was like Fort Knox. You could not get into the workouts. I mean, if you weren't a coach or a scout, you weren't in there. There was nobody else in there. The place that was the zoo was that Holiday Inn that was there at the train station where all the players were kept. That was where the zoo was. That's where you had everybody in there, and they've since cleaned that up quite a bit. But to answer your question,
Union Station.
No way. Yeah, Union Station was just, I mean, it was ridiculous, guys. When I first started, I mean, I was a young coach, and my job was to grab as many guys as I could, hide them in our room, and then run them out the back door so nobody else could talk to them. I mean, it was the Wild West. It really was. And now, you know what it is. I mean, they sell tickets. Our fans of teams can earn tickets somehow to go in on one day to see it. It's a completely different world now. It's completely televised. You can sit at home and watch every bit of it on television. And could I have imagined that in 1987? I would be lying to you if I said yes.
It's crazy. Coach Mack joins us same time each week. You always got to tune in for this. Brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Need great health care coverage at an affordable price? You know what to do. Let Farm Bureau Health Plans coach you through it. They got you covered, just like Coach Mack.
Well, Coach Mack, a little trivia. Yeah. I worked in Union Station at one of the kiosks there serving food there. So it's kind of my first experience.
Blaine. I mean, and I'm sure the Cathedral High School had that thing staffed pretty well.
You know it.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I do know because I used to recruit up there. Cathedral High School, all the dudes that they used to pull in there. You know, I've been Catholic all my life, so I know how good they recruit good players.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I'm sure you have some good holidays there and having some fun. That's for sure. I had to learn the hard way, that's for sure. But, Coach, let's talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. Kind of give us your overview of what you thought, and then I'm kind of going to Aaron Donald a little bit after that since you were on the staff that drafted him and, you know, where he's at today. So, yeah, what was your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
Sure, Blaine. There were 4 starters on that Rams team that won the Super Bowl that were drafted. You know, when we went in there to St. Louis, really, when we went to St. Louis, Tyler Higbee, you know, their tight end,
injured.
That was injured. Tyler Higbee, Rob Havenstein, that was their right tackle. You know, of course, Aaron Donald and Johnny Hecker, the punter. You know, all of those guys played for us the years that we were there at the Rams, and of course, Aaron Donald being the premier guy. We got him in that 2014 draft at the number 13 pick because people 1 through 12 thought he was too short. Well, I guess the joke's on them. But anyway.
What was your scouting report on him, Coach? Mind you, if you can recall.
I will tell you, if you want to know a draft story on Aaron Donald, myself and Mike Waffle was our defensive line coach, who was a defensive line coach for years for Al Davis at the Raiders, and then was with Tom Coughlin at the Giants, when they won the Super Bowl. He had Strahan in that whole group. He and Jim Washburn, the 2 best defensive line coaches I've ever been around in my entire life, bar none. Anyway, when I first went in there, the Rams had Chris Long and they also had Robert Quinn, but they needed some interior guys. So he and I were the ones that went looking for interior players. First time we went down to LSU, we drafted Michael Brockers in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
The first year we were there. And then Brock, was a big, powerful dude. It was a great player, still is playing in the league. And then, we needed a 3 technique in 14. And so we went out looking around. There was a guy named Bob Junko that has been at Pittsburgh for years. He and I coached together at TCU. And, they had Aaron Donald there. And, of course, I called Junk and asked about him. Bob Junko had been involved in recruiting Aaron Donald to Pitt. He said, Mac, best football player I've ever been around in my whole life, and I'm not lying to you. And Junk didn't lie. He knew a player. And so, anyway, we went to look at him. And guys, real quick, we were having our 30 visit, okay, 30 visit. You know what that means is those players come in. You can have 30 that can come in and visit your facility for one day, up until the draft. And so it was Aaron Donald's 30 visit day. We were going to bring him in. So we got to talk, so everybody else can see him. Waffle and I loved him. So did Fish. We watch him on tape. All he does is make every tackle. And so, we brought him in. We were in a draft meeting, everybody, all the high muckety mucks. It was about 11 o'clock.
Muckety mucks.
And, we all the high muckety mucks. Everybody's in there that thought they were important. And we have everything up on the board, and I can still remember to this day, up on the big screen, we were talking about Johnny Manziel because he was a quarterback coming out that year. All of a sudden, the door just bust open, and it's Aaron Donald's 30 visit, and Mike Waffle comes walking in with him, and he says, "Hey, I just want you to know, everybody in this room that don't know, I don't care who you're talking about, who's up on that board. This is Aaron Donald. He's the best player in this draft. Enough said." Slammed the door and left. No. It's a true story. And so, he keeps falling And so, we get to number 11. I tell you who was. I think Odell Beckham Jr. was taken right before him at number 12. He was taken right. And so when he passed all the way through, that was the year that Clowney was taken number 1 by the Texans, right?
Okay.
And so when he passed down to us, Jeff Fisher looks over at me. Of course, we're in none of the assistant coaches are in there. Again, it's the high muckety mucks that are in there on draft day. So we're sitting there, and Fish looks at me and says, "Mac, go get Waffle." And so I said, "Okay." So we'll go in there. I said, and he's sitting there in his office just fuming because he figures, we're not going to draft him because anyway, calls him in. Fish says, "Waffle, go pull his name off that board and put him on the board over there underneath."
Drafted.
And the rest is history.
Wow, man. So it was that much that everybody doubted just because of his height, right, Coach?
Height. That's all they talked about, height. And they said didn't play the run real well, jumped around, moved around. Well, okay, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. All I know is I've been around some great defensive linemen in my career. Some great ones. That dude is that dude.
Yeah. Well, it's a big conversation about, Aaron Donald, and he's the best defensive player ever. And I'm not going to go that far because I don't want to disrespect all the eras that have played. We can go down to the Warren Sapp, to Reggie White. There's a whole bunch of laundry list of guys. But during this era, where would you rank him as far as, let's just go D tackles, interior D linemen?
Well, let's differentiate that too. Let's differentiate that position too, Blaine. And you know this. I think he's the best 3 technique, in the last 15 years. Come on. How do you not say that? Because, playing defensive line is different, as you well know, but I'm talking to our listeners now. Yeah. There's a difference between a 3 technique that plays on the outside shoulder of a guard and a shade that plays between the guard and the center on the other side, right? You've got your space eaters, you've got your knockback guys, and then you've got your guys that can beat guards one-on-one, that demand double teams, that demand lines be slid to them, that demand, more solid protection, that you play as a 3 technique. For a 3 technique, when he came into the league, that's the guy everybody's measured by now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. I guess I want to talk about it just a little bit more. Compare Aaron Donald to yours truly, Big Jeff.
Different body types. Completely different body types. They're both. Here's what they both have. They've both got unusual quickness for their size. They've both got tremendous hand power. And that's important. And the other thing they have that I really look for when I'm going through, looking at defensive linemen, they both have tremendous lower leg flexibility. Because what you've got to be able to do there, you've got to be able to turn and change directions in a short space, playing in the defensive front. And a lot of it is how flexible you are in the lower half of your body from the knees down to be able to change directions and flatten out, or change directions and be able to chase, from inside out after you've made a power push. That's why Jarrell Casey was such a productive player. Tremendous lower body flexibility. I was here when we drafted him, and remember putting that in my in my report when he was doing that same thing. Now Big Jeff is a bigger man. Big Jeff, is different because he is a bigger, powerful guy. Big Jeff could play a shade too if you wanted him to, right? He's. And so to me, they can both collapse the cylinder. They both are going to command a double team. You're not going to single block either one of them if you're going to go 5-step drop with a guard by himself, but they're completely different body types. But I tell you where they are the same, their temperament is the same, because both of them, as far as the way they play the game, they major in violence.
Oh, well, we were great balance, great observation, Coach. Who played better versus the Bengals? I know different settings, Super Bowl and everything else, because when I watch Aaron Donald, I go, oh, man, he played great. They pissed him off, and then they made a bad decision. Then he went off on them. That should have never happened. I remember you telling us that when he ripped off the mask of someone's face, at practice.
It was was the center of his own team. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my. But when you look at the teams, I remember Big Jeff. Man, how well did he play? Didn't he have 2 sacks versus the Bengals? I know against the Rams he had 3 in the first half. But man, I was just thinking there, man, Jeff, now that he's becoming a proven pass rusher and can sack the football, he may be the next great interior D lineman in NFL history. He's on that track.
Well, he's certainly on the path. And of course, and you know this better than anybody, the thing that you do the year before means nothing the next year. It's
Right.
what you do during the off season. It's how you recalibrate. It's how you look at what you're lacking in and be able to work on that. As I said, I coached Mike Singletary for 7 years, and every year, first ballot Hall of Famer, he came into my desk about in March and put a blank notebook in front of him and said, what do I need to work on? Where am I lacking? And so that's what separates guys. You know, it's what they're able to do in the off season. But Jeffrey Simmons, especially coming off of how he came in here, you know, with an ACL, and John Robinson made a brilliant move to take a chance on him, you know, with Mike Vrabel and Amy Adams-Strunk's blessing. And so he's paid that off. And the other thing is I think he's really worked to improve, not only coming back from the ACL. It really amazed me how quick he came back from that. But the improvement that he's made year to year to year, that's what you really want to see in your guys,
I
right?
really like that. Yeah, we on with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack. Sorry about that.
Hey, Coach, on the way out, I know you spent a chunk of your career in Arizona. What's going on down there with the quarterback and everything? Is this just a bunch of conjecture and he's going to be the quarterback and we can all move on?
I have no idea.
All right.
I mean, I have no idea what's happening in Birdnell land down there. I mean, it's a little bit strange. I will say that. I mean, I really don't know. You know, they themselves chose that, and Steve Keim and their ownership chose to get rid of a first round pick, go in on Cliff Kingsbury, who ran a certain type of offense at Texas Tech, and then chose to go pick a guy that was the best in collegiate football at that time, running that type of offense. So that's a valid choice that they made to make that switch. So how it has turned sour, if indeed it has turned sour, I don't know.
Well, NFL, the storylines never stop, that's for sure, and I love talking about all of them with you every Tuesday. Coach, great stuff as always. Man, you can get outside and enjoy some of this nice weather today.
I'm sitting here in my office with the windows wide open. I'm surprised you hadn't heard the birds in the trees. I'm thinking you were in a Disney movie. I'm surprised they're not tweeting right now.
Well, it's all right, Coach. You and the birds go back to breaking down your film, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you guys. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, Coach.
We asked a question about what would you pay A.J. Brown based on our visit earlier with PFF. Brad, I'll just say this. I think 9% of you have lost your mind. We'll finish with that next. All right, 10% of y'all are crazy. I'm just going to put that out there. 10% of people are crazy. So we had PFF Brad on, Brad Spielberger. By the way, go back and listen to the show today, just some way, via podcast, however you rate, review, subscribe, or if you want to catch it on Twitter, we got the link on there from the Zone TV feed. Just go back and watch it because some fascinating stuff. Great segment with Coach Mag. Brad Spielberger joined us in hour number 1. He was breaking down some contract stuff, and kind of what put him on our radar was he is like this is what this guy's next contract is going to be guy for PFF. And he said 4 years, $80 million for A.J. Brown. So I have him on, and he's like, yeah, he's a second-round pick, but he's played his way into the same conversation as DK Metcalf and, all these Debo Samuel. And he said, I have Debo's value under A.J. Brown's value. Remember, he said Debo is like 19 and change, A.J. at a solid 20.
Yeah, and I said, well, people are going to look at it the other way because Debo's in the right offense, and they utilize him a little bit more. But they have the same body type and can do some of the same things, pretty much a lot of the same things.
Which maybe we need to get into this tomorrow. We got 2 hours and we roll, and it goes by fast. But maybe we need to get into this tomorrow because there's at Titans Draft Tape on Twitter. Titans Draft Tape, I think, is one of the Broadway sports guys, but that's his Twitter handle, at Titans Draft Tape. Had some amazing stats on A.J. Brown's lack of usage, especially like in the postseason, that you would be like, that's interesting. Really, he is not getting targets. I'll save it. We can talk about this tomorrow. But PFF Brad, he thinks A.J. Brown is worth, obviously, a significant amount of money, 4 years, $80 million. So we asked this question on Blaine and Mickey. What's your number? I said 16 plus million. That's 19%. I said 18 plus million. Maybe some people try to get a little bit of a deal. 37%.
That's gone up to 38 now.
Then I put Brad's number.
That's
$20 million per year, 34%. Or has it gone up on yours?
No, it went down to 33.
Okay.
And the 16 went to 20.
So too rich for me, I'm out. I tried to quote Shark Tank. And the last time it updated for me, it was 9% when we went to the commercial. It's 10%.
It's 10 now.
It's 10%.
I'm out.
10%. Too rich. And I put even 16 on there. So even that, because that's, I think, roughly where Spot Track had him. They had him at 17. So that would be 16
Oh, that's
plus.
The number I said. 17,
so 16 plus would put him in that Spot Track range. This is
what is he
how
currently making? What's his base salary?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look. I mean, he's on a second round. What's the value of that whole deal? Is it $5 million or something?
So he may be making $600-700 or something. Maybe a mil.
Maybe. In the last year of the deal, maybe he makes $1 million and change. So I mean, he is making second round draft pick money. With
base salary.
He signed a 4-year, little over $5.5 million deal.
Well, there you go. All right. So if he sees all of it, about $5.5 million.
And would you walk away from 17 if you're offered it?
He caught 63 balls last year in 13 games. Do you guys know who the number 2? I've asked you so many questions today. I put you both on the spot.
He caught how many balls?
He caught 63 for 869 and 5 touchdowns, which were both down numbers for him from where he'd been the first couple of years. But he missed 3 games. You know who caught the second most passes on this team?
You go first, Lucas.
I'm going to say Nick Westbrook-Akina.
I know he led a couple games, too. I'm still going to go with Julio.
Nick Westbrook-Akina, 38. Ferkser, 34. Julio and Jeff Swain. Julio caught the same number of balls as Jeff Swain.
How many is that?
Out there. How many is it?
31.
Okay. And NWI caught
38.
And how many games did Julio play?
Julio played
Nick Westbrook-Akina played
total
all games.
of
Julio,
10.
Yeah, I was going to say he missed
Jeff
at least
Swain
6.
played 16. But if somebody said before the year, I'm going to bet you, we'll go to Vegas and we'll bet some money that Julio and let's pick Jeff Swain. They have the same amount of catches.
Nope. I wouldn't have even predicted Nick Westbrook-Akina, NWI, that he would have more catches.
He had 38 for 476 and 4 touchdowns. He was second in yards. He was second in touchdown catches on the team.
In theory, he was a number 2 on this team last year.
On this team, he was, yeah.
At times, he did show flashes of that. I have to give him that.
He Billy White's used on Oilers weekend, and I about lost my mind.
Oh, yeah, when he did the dance.
Yep.
He scored. That was a great tribute there. But I still don't. I think that's why Tannehill had so much confidence in him and threw him the ball on the last tip.
He showed why they have confidence in him. He did that, at least. It wasn't his fault that Julio and AJ were unavailable so much.
Yeah. See, availability is part of the game, and he's getting better each and every week. I mean, he's exceeded what I thought he could do in this season. There's no way around it for me. I mean, he's shown that he could be a 2 at times. I never thought that would happen. At times. I ain't saying all the time, but somebody's going to see him in film and go, if he has another year like that and then they bring in somebody like Juju and he's still kind of doing somewhat the same things, he's going to get a good contract.
He covers punts. He covers kicks. He plays special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, I'm trying to stick around. I'm trying to make myself
undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
And you got a couple other receivers drafted who was sitting on the pine.
Yeah.
So he's obviously better than them in their eyes anyway.
One guy they spent some pretty good money for, he said, send me anywhere. And they're like, how does Detroit suit you? Reynolds.
Hey.
Reynolds was
what it's worth. Reynolds produced when he went to Detroit.
I know. They could have used him.
Hey, man.
Him and Tiny Khalif up at Titans North.
It's funny when you know the quarterback.
Yeah. He did know that.
Go.
All right. We got to go. We know our quarterback, and our quarterback is Lucas. And he said, down, set, time to go. 3HL is next.
So in the meantime, in between time,
we'll see you tomorrow, and
peace, Lucas.
Eat your